It was close to midnight, the hour when the mansion grew so quiet that even the walls seemed to hold their breath. The chandeliers were dark, the corridors empty, and only the faint echo of distant security steps lingered in the air. Grace Miller wiped down the last countertop in the kitchen, her body aching from another long day of blending into corners and shadows. She moved quietly, almost invisible, the way she preferred. The staff lockers hummed behind her, and the smell of lemon detergent clung to her hands. She thought she was alone. Then the air shifted. A presence filled the doorway, heavy, cold, commanding. Grace turned slowly, breath stalling in her chest. Aleandro Zanetti stood there. His black shirt sleeves were rolled to his elbows, revealing strong forearms and a watch that probably cost more than her life. His hair was slightly mussed from a late meeting. His jaw was tense, his expression unreadable. But his eyes, dark, sharp, focused, locked directly onto her. "You," he said, voice low, unwavering. "You're coming with me to my brother's wedding." The glass slipped from her fingers and clinked against the counter. Grace didn't breathe. She couldn't. "Aye, sir," she whispered, unsure she had heard correctly. He didn't blink. "You'll accompany me." Ethan Blake appeared behind him, eyebrows shooting up almost comically. Even he looked thrown off, and Ethan never looked surprised. "Boss," he murmured, "are you sure?" "Yes," Aleandro cut in, not taking his eyes off Grace. Her stomach dropped. She felt her throat tighten as she forced out the words. "I think you're mistaken, Mr. Zanetti. I'm just the maid." "I'm not mistaken." A moment later, heels clicked sharply on the tiles. Mrs. Zanetti swept into the kitchen, draped in silk and disapproval. She froze at the sight of Grace standing with the Mafia boss, her nephew, in the middle of the quiet kitchen. "Aleandro," she said slowly, "please tell me you chose a suitable date for the wedding. We cannot have people talking." "I chose her," he replied. The tray in Mrs. Zanetti's hands nearly slipped. "The maid. You're taking the maid." Ethan coughed into his fist to hide a laugh. Grace wished the floor would swallow her whole. "She's staff," Mrs. Zanetti continued, voice trembling with outrage. "This is unacceptable. Your date must reflect your status." "This is my choice." His tone ended the argument instantly. Grace's breath came out shaky. Something inside her shifted, fear tightening around her ribs. "Mr. Zanetti," she whispered, "I don't think I should." "Are you refusing me?" His voice softened, but the power behind it didn't. Her heart stuttered. Refusing him meant danger. Refusing him meant disrespect. Refusing him meant consequences she couldn't afford. She shook her head slowly. I'm not refusing." Aleandro studied her face, as if confirming she understood the weight of his decision. Then he turned and walked away with Ethan following. The moment the door shut, Grace's legs buckled. She stumbled to the staff lockers, hands trembling, pulling one open with shaking fingers. Inside, behind her worn uniform, was a small photograph she kept hidden away, a reminder of a life she left behind, a life she prayed no one would ever connect her to. She touched the edge of the photo, heart racing. If someone recognized her at that wedding, everything could fall apart. And now she had no choice but to walk straight into the spotlight she had spent 2 years running from. The penthouse door opened with a soft click and Grace stepped inside feeling like she had crossed into a different universe. Morning light poured through the floor-to-ceiling windows, turning the polished floors into a mirror that reflected a world she did not belong to. She stood frozen, unsure where to move or what to touch. Ethan walked ahead of her with the calm confidence she wished she had. He glanced back once, studying her trembling hands. "Don't faint on me," he muttered in a low voice. She almost laughed, except nothing about this felt funny. A woman in her 40s, elegant, confident, and radiating warmth, approached with a soft smile. "You must be Grace," she said, her voice gentle yet firm enough to allow no argument. "My name is Alina, and we are going to take care of you today." Grace wanted to run. Her heart thumped against her ribs, trying to break free. She had lived her whole life avoiding attention, yet now every pair of eyes seemed trained on her. Elena motioned to two assistants who appeared out of nowhere. They guided Grace toward a large dressing area filled with mirrors, bright lights, fabrics, and shoes that belonged in magazines. Grace whispered, "I don't belong here." Elena stepped closer, lifting her chin with soft fingers. "Tonight you do," she said. "Because the man who chose you expects the world to look at you. And you cannot let fear make you shrink." The assistants loosened the tie in Grace's hair, and her curls spilled down her back. She barely recognized the reflection staring back at her, as treatment warmed her scalp and hands moved through her hair with practiced precision. Her face slowly transformed under expert touches. Eyes brighter, cheekbones shaped skin glowing in ways she had never seen. Every new detail felt like she was stepping deeper into a life she could not control. Then Elena pulled a gown from a golden rack, a red masterpiece that seemed to breathe fire in the light. Grace stepped back, shaking her head. "I can't wear that." Elena smiled. You will." Aleandro selected the color himself. At his name, Grace's stomach twisted. He picked it. For her. Why? They slipped the gown over her shoulders, and the fabric hugged her body like it had been made only for her. Grace felt the air leave her lungs. She hardly recognized the woman in the mirror. Someone strong, someone striking, someone visible. A knock sounded. Ethan entered and froze. For once his words stumbled. "Yeah," he whispered, "that will work." Grace lowered her eyes, embarrassed. "Is it too much?" Ethan shook his head slowly. "For anyone else, maybe. But walking beside him, tonight you need to be unforgettable." They led her to the elevator, the red fabric brushing her legs with every step, her heart thundering louder with each floor they passed. When the doors opened, Aleandro Zenetti stood waiting. Black suit, white shirt, eyes sharp and fixed only on her. Grace nearly forgot how to breathe. He walked toward her, slow, deliberate, each step heavy, with something she did not understand. "Turn around," he said softly. Grace did. Heat rushed to her face as his gaze moved over the gown, then back to her eyes. "When you walk beside me tonight," he whispered, "no one will look at anything else." She felt her knees weaken. Tonight she would be seen by every enemy, every whisper, every shadow. Her fear was a living thing inside her. What she didn't know, what no one in the room knew, was that someone was already watching from across the street. A man hidden under a hood, phone in hand, sending a message to someone Grace feared more than the night itself. "Found her. She is with Zenetti. She will be at the wedding tonight." And with that message, the storm she ran from began to move straight toward her again. The moment Grace stepped out of the SUV, the world around her fell into a heavy, stunned silence. The entrance of the Grand Hotel glowed under golden lights. Elegant guests in glittering gowns and tailored suits paused mid-step, their conversations breaking off, as if someone had stolen the breath from the night. And all of them stared at her. Aleandro's hand settled on the small of her back, guiding her forward, his touch steady and warm enough to keep her upright. She felt the weight of every stare pressing into her skin. Women whispered behind jeweled hands. Men narrowed their eyes, whispering guesses about who she was and how she had appeared beside the most feared man in the city. Grace wanted to disappear, but Aleandro walked with a calm that silenced everything else. "Eyes up," he murmured. She lifted her chin just a little, and he nodded as if she had passed an unspoken test. As they approached the ballroom doors, a man in a navy suit leaned toward his date. "Is that the maid from the Zenetti mansion?" The words carried too clearly. Grace flinched, but before the man could blink, Aleandro turned his head and fixed him with a stare cold enough to freeze the air. The man straightened instantly, choking on his next breath. Inside, the ballroom chandeliers sparkled over hundreds of powerful people. Business giants, politicians, high society names that filled newspaper columns. Every single one of them turned to look. Grace felt the heat crawling up her neck. But Aleandro kept her close, one arm around her waist, guiding her with the confidence of a man who owned the room. Mark Zenetti spotted them, and his face broke into a grin. He walked over, hugging his older brother before stopping in shock as he saw Grace. "The maid," he whispered. "Wow." Grace flushed, but Mark smiled kindly. "You look beautiful. I'm glad you came." For a moment, she felt seen in a way that didn't crush her, until she caught a woman in a green dress circling her like a hawk. The woman's voice dripped with poison. "Aleandro, is this really your date?" "Grace." "The maid." Grace swallowed. "Aleandro didn't even turn. She is exactly who I chose. And that is all anyone needs to know." The woman went pale and backed away. Grace exhaled a shaky breath. Aleandro glanced at her. "You're doing better than half the people here." His tone was softer than before, almost reassuring, almost dangerous. Music shifted to a slow dance, and couples moved to the center of the room. Aleandro turned to her. "Dance with me." Grace trembled. "I don't know how." "You will in 10 seconds." He drew her in his hand, warm on her waist, guiding her with a controlled ease that left no space for fear. For a moment, the ballroom blurred into soft light and quiet breath. Then she saw him. A man at the bar. Standing alone. Not drinking. Not talking. Just staring. At her. Her heart dropped. Her feet turned to stone. Aleandro felt her freeze instantly. His hand tightened. "What do you see?" Grace's voice cracked. "I know him." Aleandro followed her gaze. His eyes turned sharp like a blade drawn in silence. "Who is he?" She swallowed. "I think he works for Tyler Hayes." Aleandro didn't finish the dance. He didn't say another word. He simply took her hand and moved. Ethan appeared in seconds, reading the danger. Mark watched from the edge, confused. People whispered as Aleandro led Grace out of the ballroom through a side corridor away from the music and lights. Grace's heart pounded. "I'm scared," she whispered. Aleandro stopped, turned to her, and spoke in a voice low and dangerous. "You're with me. Do you understand? You're with me." But as they reached the side exit, Grace looked back one last time. The man was no longer at the bar. He had vanished. And somewhere in the crowded ballroom, hidden between shadows and silk, someone else watched Grace leave. A woman with cold eyes, whispering into a phone. "Yes, she is here. Tell Tyler his runaway finally showed her face tonight." The service hallway behind the ballroom felt colder than the rest of the hotel, as if the warmth and glitter of the wedding had been peeled away the moment the doors shut. Grace's heels clicked against the marble floor, her breath uneven, and shallow as Aleandro kept her close, his hand wrapped firmly around hers. Ethan walked ahead, scanning corners, checking shadows, every step measured and sharp. Grace tried to slow her breathing, but the panic crawled up her throat. "I saw him," she whispered, her voice shaking. "Not just anyone. Someone Tyler trusted. Someone he sent when he wanted fear to walk into a room before he did." Aleandro didn't stop moving. "Tell me exactly what you saw." His tone was calm, so calm it terrified her more. Grace swallowed the tremor in her voice. "I recognized his face from the night I ran. He was one of the men Tyler used when he wanted something handled quietly. He looked at me like he already knew I was here." Aleandro's jaw tightened, the muscle ticking as he processed the danger. "We're leaving now. No arguments." They reached the back exit, where 2 guards stood waiting, one checking the alley, the other holding the door open. Grace hesitated, unable to stop the fear blooming in her chest. What if he's outside waiting? Aleandro leaned in close, his voice low and steady. Then he'll regret waiting. Before she could respond, a harsh buzzing filled the corridor. Ethan checked his phone. "Boss." Someone sent a message through the encrypted line. "Show me." Aleandro read the message, and his expression didn't shift, but something dark settled in the air around him. "Found her. Thought you'd like to know. She still runs like she did last time." Grace's knees weakened. It felt like the words were branded into her skin. Ethan cursed under his breath. He's taunting you, boss. He wants a reaction. Aleandro finally looked at Grace. What did you tell me earlier? She blinked, tears burning her eyes. That I'm scared. No. Before that you recognized the man. And what did you say about him? Grace swallowed. He works for Tyler. Aleandro nodded. Then Tyler knows you're with me. The words hit her like ice. Every mistake, every fear, every shadow from her past had followed her into this night. The guards opened the alley door, and cold air rushed in. Grace stepped out, gripping the edge of her dress, as if it could anchor her to safety. Aleandro placed a hand on her back, guiding her toward the SUV waiting with its engine humming. Ethan slid into the front seat, scanning the surroundings with sharp eyes. They were halfway into the car when a whisper of movement echoed from the far end of the alley. Not footsteps. Something softer. A presence hiding in the dark. Aleandro turned his head. He heard it before Grace did. Before anyone did. Stay down, he murmured, pulling her close. Grace ducked inside the car, her heart thundering. A figure slipped deeper into the shadows, watching them with interest. Not rushing. Not attacking. Just watching. Once the doors shut, and the SUV pulled away, Aleandro stayed silent long enough for the tension to thicken. Finally, he spoke. Grace, tell me everything you haven't told me yet. Her breath caught. He wasn't asking. He was demanding. Because he already knew the truth. Someone had followed her long before tonight. Someone had tracked her steps months before she entered the Zenetti mansion. Someone who was Tyler Hayes. Someone else entirely. Grace closed her eyes as the truth pressed against her chest. There was a second secret. The one she hoped would never surface. The one that could destroy everything. And now it was coming for her too. The SUV moved through the night like a silent shadow, the city lights flashing across Grace's face as she struggled to steady her breath. She clasped her hands together, trying to stop them from shaking, but fear lived in her bones. Aleandro watched her closely, his expression unreadable, but his eyes tracking every tremor, every inhale, every flicker of panic. Ethan glanced at them through the rearview mirror. Boss, we need to know everything. No more half-truths. No more held-back details. Grace stared out the window, unable to look at either of them. Her voice came out barely above a whisper. I told you about Tyler. But I didn't tell you everything I saw. Aleandro leaned in closer, his tone steady and unrelenting. Start talking. Grace swallowed hard. The memory dug itself out of the corner of her mind, where she had buried it like a body. I stayed late at the cafe that night. I went to throw out the trash. I heard shouting. I heard someone begging. I thought it was just a fight. Then I saw Tyler and two other men cornering a guy behind the dumpsters. Her fingers tightened around her dress. They weren't just threatening him. They were torturing him, trying to get information. I saw blood. I saw his face. I heard every word Tyler said. He told the man, no one walks away from me alive. Ethan cursed under his breath. That's all bad enough. But what didn't you tell us? Grace closed her eyes. The worst part. The part she hid, because she knew it painted a target on her soul. I recorded it, she whispered. Not on purpose. My phone was in my hand from texting my friend. I hit the button without thinking. I didn't even realize it until I was already running. But the recording caught everything. Everything. Ethan twisted around in his seat. You have the recording. Grace shook her head. Not anymore. I deleted it. I destroyed the phone. I thought that would keep me safe. But he must have known. He must have suspected. That's why he chased me across cities. Aleandro stayed silent, too silent. His eyes darkened with understanding. So Tyler wasn't just afraid you saw something. He thought you kept proof. Grace nodded, tears filling her eyes. I thought if I erased it, he would stop. But he didn't. He kept coming. And every time I ran, it got worse. People around me got hurt. I thought coming to your mansion would hide me. I thought no one would find me there. Ethan let out a long exhale. So that's why he wants her gone for good. If she ever talks, he's finished. Aleandro finally spoke, his voice low and dangerous. Grace, what did the recording capture? All of it. Everything. His threats. His face. His men. The attack. The SUV went silent as the weight of her words settled like fog. Grace felt sick. She had survived, but now she was dragging this storm straight into Aleandro's world. When they reached the mansion, Aleandro didn't. He took her hand, guiding her inside through a private entrance. Security followed immediately, voices, low radios, crackling. He led her straight into his office, shutting the door behind them. Grace stood trembling in the center of the room. She felt like she was about to unravel. Aleandro walked around her, slow, calm, controlled. Grace, look at me. She did. Barely. You think deleting that recording erased the danger. You think running kept you safe. No. It made him desperate. And desperate men do stupid things. Her breathing hitched. I am sorry. Don't apologize. He stepped closer. You survived something no one should ever witness. You held that secret alone for too long. Grace stared at him, her voice breaking. I ruined everything. You ruined nothing. Aleandro reached out, lifting her chin. The only mistake you made was thinking I would let you face any of this by yourself. Her tears spilled. And for the first time, she saw something raw in his eyes. Not anger. Not power. Not control. Fear. Fear of losing her. But before she could speak, Ethan knocked sharply at the door. Boss, you need to see this. Nah. Aleandro opened the door, and Ethan handed him a tablet. Security footage from outside the hotel. Grainy but clear. A man in a hood, watching the SUV. But it was Tyler's man. It wasn't anyone they recognized. Ethan's voice dropped. We ran the face through every database. Whoever this is, he isn't working for Tyler. Grace felt her blood turn cold. Another man. Another watcher. Another threat. And this one was looking directly at her. The past she feared wasn't just one enemy. It was more than that. Much more. And whatever she thought she escaped, it was finally catching up to her now. The room felt smaller than it had ever been as Aleandro stared at the grainy footage frozen on the tablet. The hooded man's face was half lit by a street lamp, one eye caught by the glow, cold, calculating. Not one of Tyler's. Not one of theirs. A stranger who shouldn't have known where Grace was, and yet had followed her to the wedding. Ethan set the tablet on the desk, his jaw tight. We scanned every system, every camera, every known rival. No match. This one is new. Grace felt something inside her chest collapse, like a floor giving way. How many people wanted her gone? How many shadows had she run from without knowing? Aleandro turned to her, and the look in his eyes was no longer just protective. It was lethal. Grace, before tonight, did you ever see that man? Anywhere. Think. Think hard. Her mind raced. Images, flashes, streets, apartments, buses, cheap coffee, shops, dark alleys. Faces blurred together. Until one memory flickered. I saw someone like him once. She whispered. Not clearly. Not long. But back when I moved cities 2 years ago. Someone was at the bus station. Watching me. I thought I imagined it. Aleandro exhaled sharply, the air turning colder. You didn't imagine anything. Whoever this is, he's been tracking you longer than Hayes. Grace's heart slammed painfully against her ribs. But why? I don't know him. I don't know anyone except Tyler. That's what we're going to find out. Aleandro stepped closer, lowering his voice. And until we do, you stay where I can see you. Grace shook her head, stepping back. I can't stay locked up like some problem. This isn't just about Tyler anymore. It's something else. Something I don't understand. Aleandro moved forward slowly, his presence swallowing the space. You are not a problem, Grace. You are a target. There is a difference. The problem is whoever thinks he can touch you. Ethan's radio crackled suddenly. Boss, we have movement at the east gate. Aleandro turned instantly. Who? Unidentified car. Windows tinted. Slowing down but not stopping. The guard in the hall called through the door. Sir, do you want us to confront? No. Aleandro said without hesitation. Let it pass. Let it show its face. Then track it. Grace wrapped her arms around herself, trembling as she whispered. This is my fault. I brought this here. Your people. Your home. They're in danger because of me. Aleandro stopped in front of her, gripping her shoulders, his voice rough and vibrating with a heat that pushed through her fear. Listen to me. You didn't bring danger. Danger followed you. And if it wasn't my house, it would be someone else's. Or nowhere. And you'd be alone. Running until someone finally caught you. Her eyes filled with tears. I don't want anyone hurt. I don't want you hurt. Something softened in his expression. And for a moment, he wasn't the mafia boss everyone feared. He was a man. A man who suddenly had something to lose. You think I fear being hurt? No. I fear losing what I want to protect. Grace blinked, her voice shaking. Me. Aleandro inhaled slowly, as if admitting it cost him something precious. Yes. You. But before the moment could settle, Ethan stepped back into the office, his expression darker than before. We have another problem. Bigger. Grace tried to steady herself. What now? Ethan placed another photo on the desk. This one taken hours earlier. At the hotel. A different angle. A different shad. A woman. Half hidden behind a group of guests. A camera in her hand. And her face. Half covered by hair. Grace went pale. She knew that silhouette. That posture. That stare. It was burned into her memory like a scar. Aleandro watched her closely. Grace. Do you know her? Her lips parted in terror. Yes. She whispered. She found me again. Who is she? Ethan demanded. Grace stepped back until her back hit the wall, her heart breaking apart. Not Tyler. Not his men. Someone worse. Someone she never thought she'd see again. My sister, she whispered. Her voice cracking. She's the one who sold me out the first time. The one who told Tyler where to find me. Aleandro froze. Ethan cursed under his breath. Grace looked at the photo again, her voice trembling beyond control. She isn't here to help Tyler. She's here because she doesn't want me alive either. And the room filled with a new kind of danger. A personal one. A betrayal that went deeper than blood. And for the first time since the night began, Aleandro realized Grace wasn't running from one enemy. She was running from her own past. Her own blood. And her own family. Who wanted her gone just as badly as Tyler did. The silence inside the office felt different now, heavier, darker, something poisonous twisting through the air, as Grace stared at the photograph of her sister, hiding behind the wedding crowd. Her throat tightened until she could barely breathe. Memories she had tried to bury clawed back to the surface, hot, sharp, and merciless. Aleandro stepped closer, his voice low. Grace. Tell me everything about her. Grace shook her head, as if refusing to relive it would make it untrue. I thought she was gone. I thought she stopped looking for me when I left the city. I never imagined she would come here. Not to the wedding. Not into your world. Ethan watched her carefully, sensing the danger in every piece of this new revelation. Grace, why would your sister want to hurt you? What happened between you two? Grace wrapped her arms around herself, trying to keep from trembling. We were close once. Before everything. Before the debt. Before the man she fell for. Before she traded my safety for money. Aleandro's expression sharpened. What debt? What man? Grace took a shaky breath. My sister owed money. A lot. To someone connected to Tyler. She told me she needed help. I didn't have anything. I couldn't save her. So she gave them me instead. Aleandro's jaw tightened. She sold you. Grace nodded, tears burning her eyes. She told Tyler where I lived. Where I worked. What I saw. She told him I recorded the attack even though I hadn't realized it yet. And the moment she was paid, she left. I never saw her again. Ethan exhaled slow and hard. So this woman, your blood, helped Tyler hunt you. Grace nodded helplessly. Yes. And if she's here, it means she wants to finish what she started. Aleandro turned the photo over as if the paper itself offended him. What does she gain by hurting you? Grace swallowed. If I die, all her mistakes disappear. The debt she owed gets erased. Tyler stops hunting her. And she keeps the money. I am the loose thread she wants gone. Aleandro lifted his gaze to Ethan. Find her. Before she finds Grace. Ethan nodded and disappeared down the hall. Aleandro turned back to her and walked slowly until she felt the heat of his presence. Grace, you're not going anywhere alone. Not even 2 steps away from me. Grace's voice cracked. Why does she hate me so much? Why does everyone keep coming after me? I just wanted to survive. Aleandro cupped her face, gently, his thumb brushing her cheek. People like your sister. People like Hayes. They destroy what they fear. And they fear you. Because you know the truth. And truth is a weapon they can't control. Grace trembled. What am I supposed to do now? You stay beside me. Aleandro said. You breathe when I tell you to breathe. You move when I tell you to move. You trust me to keep you alive. A knock sounded at the door. A guard stood outside, breathing hard. Sir, we found something in the garden. Something left intentionally. Aleandro stiffened. What? The guard held up a small velvet pouch. Grace's heart dropped before the pouch was even opened. She knew that color. That shape. That texture. Aleandro poured the contents onto his desk. A necklace. Broken. Blood on the clasp. And a single folded note. Grace covered her mouth as her knees gave out. Aleandro grabbed her before she fell. He opened the note. His eyes darkened. His voice deepened into something deadly. It's from your sister. Grace felt her soul freeze. What does it say? She whispered. Aleandro read the message aloud. You ran once. You won't run again. If I can't escape my mistakes, neither will you. Tonight, I finish what I started. Grace's world collapsed around her. Her sister wasn't hunting her with regret. She was hunting her with intent. With purpose. With hate stronger than anything Tyler Hayes had ever shown. And now someone who knew her better than anyone. Who knew her weaknesses. Who knew where she hid. Who knew how she thought. Was coming for her in the dark. Aleandro tightened his grip on her trembling hands. Grace looked up at him through tears. What do we do now? Aleandro didn't hesitate. Nah, he said in a voice that made the walls tremble. We hunt her first. Night settled over the Zenetti mansion like a warning, swallowing the gardens in heavy shadows and stretching darkness across every stone. Security lights flickered over the lawns, But even with the extra guards, the place felt exposed, vulnerable, as if something was already hiding between the hedges waiting for the right moment to strike. Grace stood inside Aleandro's office, staring at the broken necklace on his desk, her breath shallow, her heartbeat out of rhythm. Her sister's note lay beside it, each handwritten word dripping with venom. She felt like her past had finally sharpened its claws and followed her here. Aleandro watched her carefully, the storm building behind his eyes. He wasn't just angry. He was dangerous. And not in a way the world whispered about. This was personal. Ethan stormed into the room without knocking. Boss, the team swept the garden. Found footprints leading toward the back gate. Small ones. Female. Fresh within the last hour. Grace's knees weakened. She was here. She's close. Ethan nodded. Too close. Aleandro turned to Grace. Did your sister know you would come to the wedding? Grace shook her head. No. I didn't even know until you told me. She must have followed me before that. Ethan crossed his arms, thinking fast. This doesn't feel like just revenge. She left a message. She left evidence. Why announce herself? Why reveal her presence instead of hiding? Because she wants Grace scared. Aleandro answered. She wants her cornered, weak, alone. That's how people like her think. Fear makes the victim easier to break. Grace closed her eyes. I never wanted this. I just wanted to disappear. Aleandro stepped closer, taking her trembling hands and grounding her with a steady grip. You're not disappearing again. Do you understand? Running is over. Before she could answer, the house alarms blared shrill, piercing, shaking the walls. Every guard reached for weapons. Ethan sprinted to the security panel. Someone breached the south corridor. Motion sensors tripped. Grace felt cold wash through her. She's inside. She whispered. She came inside. Aleandro didn't hesitate. He pulled Grace close, placing himself in front of her, as if he were a wall. Ethan. Lock down the entire wing. No one in. No one out. Guards rushed through the halls, sealing doors, securing exits. The mansion transformed into a fortress in seconds. But Grace's fear didn't ease. She knew her sister better than anyone. She didn't attack head-on. She stalked. She played. She made people panic before she struck. A guard burst into the office, breathing hard. Boss, we found something on the 3rd floor. What? Aleandro demanded. A message written on the mirror in the guest bathroom. Lipstick. Fresh. Grace felt tears burn behind her eyes. What did it say? The guard swallowed. Come find me. Ethan cursed under his breath. She's taunting you. Trying to pull Grace out. Aleandro's voice dropped to a deadly calm. She'll get nothing she wants. But before anyone could move, the lights flickered, plunging the entire east side of the mansion into darkness. Cold darkness. The kind that hides secrets. The kind predators move through. Grace's breath hitched. She's killing the power. Ethan shouted. Backup generators coming online in 30 seconds. Aleandro leaned toward her, whispering in a voice that felt like a shield. Stay behind me. No matter what you hear. No matter what happens. You stay with me. Grace nodded, though terror shook every cell in her body. Footsteps echoed down the hall. Soft. Slow. Purposeful. Not running. Not rushing. Her sister was enjoying this. The fear. The hunt. The chaos. Grace squeezed Aleandro's hand and whispered. She's not here to kill me quickly. Aleandro looked down at her, eyes narrowing. What does she want? Grace swallowed. She wants me alive long enough to suffer. The power surged back. Lights flickered on. And standing in the doorway, as if she had always belonged there, was her sister. A slow, cold smile on her lips, and a small silver blade in her hand. Hello, Grace. Miss me. And the room exploded with terror and rage all at once. But the moment their eyes met, Grace knew something her sister did not. This time, she wasn't alone. This time, a monster far more dangerous stood between them. And aleandro, Zenetti, was ready to burn the world down to keep her safe. The moment Grace's sister appeared in the doorway, something inside the mansion shifted, as if every wall understood a line had been crossed that could never be undone. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Even the air seemed frozen. Her sister's smile sharpened like a blade as she twirled the small silver knife between her fingers, a cruel glint in her eyes that Grace had seen only once before. The night everything fell apart. Aleandro stepped in front of Grace, instantly his body blocking her completely. His voice dropped to a lethal calm. Put the knife down. Her sister laughed. A soft, cold sound. Why would I? I came all this way for her. Not for you. Grace could barely breathe. Her legs trembled, but she stayed behind aleandro, gripping the back of his jacket like a lifeline. Her sister tilted her head, examining the scene. So this is where you ran? To the Mafia boss. Her voice curled with amusement. And he's protecting you. How pathetic. Ethan positioned himself to the side, ready to move, but not acting yet. He knew one wrong motion could turn this into bloodshed. Aleandro didn't blink. You took something from me the moment you stepped into this house. Her smile widened. Really? And what did I take? Grace. Grace felt her knees weaken. Aleandro rarely spoke with emotion. But those words were not spoken as a threat. They were spoken like a truth. Her sister rolled her eyes. That girl has been nothing but a burden since the day she was born. Always ruining things, always witnessing things she should. Always being the reason everything went wrong. Grace felt the words slice straight into old wounds. Wounds she thought had healed, but clearly never had. Tears blurred her vision. Stop. Please. Just stop. But her sister stepped forward, creating a jagged echo of their past. You ruined my life. You ruined my future. You ruined everything. Why should you get to walk free when I'm drowning? Aleandro moved so fast Grace barely saw it. 1 second, he was in front of her. The next, he was inches from her sister. If you come one step closer to her, you will not leave this house. Her sister laughed again. You don't scare me. You think you're the only one who came prepared tonight. She snapped her fingers. And from the shadows of the corridor, too, more figures stepped out. Men in dark clothing. Faces covered. Weapons drawn. Ethan swore under his breath. Boss. This wasn't a solo attack. Aleandro's jaw clenched. Grace, stay behind me. Grace couldn't. Fear rooted her in place. Her sister smirked. Don't worry, Grace. I'm not here to kill you. Not yet. I'm here to take you. Back with me. Back where you belong. Every debt gets paid one way or another. Aleandro stepped forward, blocking her view. You're not taking her anywhere. Her sister raised the blade. Watch me. The two masked men moved at the same time, charging toward aleandro. Ethan launched himself at one, grabbing him by the wrist, twisting, until the weapon clattered to the floor. The other man dove toward Grace, his arm outstretched. Grace screamed. Aleandro spun around, grabbed the attacker by the throat, and slammed him against the wall so hard the plaster cracked. He didn't hesitate. Didn't even blink. He punched once. The man went limp. Her sister stumbled back, eyes wide. She hadn't expected that. Aleandro turned toward her slowly. Deadly. Controlled. Silent rage radiating off him. You should run. Right now. Because if I take one more step, you won't have a future left to sell to anyone. Her sister faltered. For the first time, her bravado cracked. I didn't come to fight you. I came to collect what's mine. Grace shouted through tears. I was never yours. Never. You gave me up. You gave me to him. Just to save yourself. Her sister's face twisted. You should have died that night. Not me. Not my life. Yours. Aleandro moved. Grace's sister raised the blade. Ethan shouted. Guards poured into the hall. Chaos exploded. But Grace didn't see any of it. Her eyes locked onto one thing. One detail that froze her blood. Her sister wasn't just here to kill her. She was wearing the same pendant Grace lost the night she escaped Tyler. The pendant that held the only copy of the recording she thought she destroyed. The recording that proved everything. The recording Tyler wanted. The recording her sister stole. Grace whispered. Broken. She has the video. Aleandro's eyes snapped toward her. For the first time, he understood the full danger. Her sister didn't just want revenge. She wanted power. Power over Grace. Power over Tyler. Power over Aleandro's entire world. And now the real war had begun. Not with Tyler Hayes. Not with rivals. But with the one person Grace wished had loved her instead of destroying her. Her own blood. Her sister. The keeper of the truth. And she had come to finish everything in a single night. The hallway erupted into chaos, but even through the noise, Grace saw only one thing. The small silver pendant hanging around her sister's neck, swinging like a blade made of memory. Her breath vanished. That pendant had belonged to her. She had lost it the night she escaped the cafe. She had sworn the recording died with it. But there it was. Untouched. Alive. A weapon more dangerous than any knife in her sister's hand. Her sister backed away as guards flooded the corridor, weapons, raised voices, sharp with commands. Aleandro stepped forward slowly, each step, radiating something darker than fury. The masked men lay unconscious on the floor, Ethan breathing hard beside them, blood on his knuckles. Grace's sister held up the knife as if it would protect her, but her eyes flickered with panic. She had expected fear. She had expected chaos. She had not expected Aleandro Zenetti. She tried to snarl, but her voice trembled. Don't come any closer. I swear ill. Aleandro cut her off, his tone deadly calm. You'll do nothing. Not anymore. She tried to lift the blade. He knocked it from her hand in a single swift motion, sending it skittering across the floor. Her breath hitched as she stumbled back. You think this ends because you say it does, she hissed. I have leverage. I have proof. I have everything, she saw. She pointed at Grace. She ruins me. I ruin her. That's how it works. Aleandro stepped in front of Grace again, shielding her with his body. His voice dropped to a low, lethal whisper. You think you have leverage against me? That video means nothing to me. Grace means everything. Her sister's face twisted with hatred. You would destroy your empire for her. You would risk everything for a girl who doesn't even belong in your world. Aleandro didn't answer. The silence was enough. Her sister laughed, once a broken sound. Fine. Then she goes down with you. She grabbed the pendant, ripping it from her neck. The chain snapped. Metal clattered against the floor. Grace gasped. Her sister snatched the pendant back up and held it tight, as if feeding off the power inside it. This is my insurance. My protection. It keeps me alive. Without it, I have nothing. Grace took a step forward, despite her shaking legs. No. You had me. And you sold me. You had a sister. And you threw her to a monster. Her sister sneered. You were always the chosen one. The one people cared about. The one people protected. Well, look at you now. Protected again. By a man who will get you killed. Ethan moved toward her. Enough. Give me the pendant. Her sister jerked back. Touch me, and everyone in this house burns when this video goes out. Aleandro's voice filled the corridor. Grace, stay behind me. He walked toward her sister, slow, controlled, deadly. She stepped back until her spine hit the wall. Her voice cracked. Stop. Don't come closer. I mean it. I will release it. I will ruin everything you built. Aleandro stopped one step away. His eyes locked onto hers. Then do it. She froze. What? Aleandro leaned in, voice low. You think I'm afraid of exposure? Of investigations? Of losing power? I've prepared for men stronger than you. For enemies larger than you. For wars far deadlier than this. He glanced at Grace. There's only one thing I fear losing. And she is not you. Her sister trembled. The pendant shook in her hand. Grace watched in breathless silence as Aleandro reached forward and closed his hand around her sister's wrist. She struggled. He didn't move. He only tightened his grip until her fingers opened involuntarily. The pendant slipped from her grasp and fell to the floor. A guard grabbed her, immediately pinning her arms. She screamed. No. No, let go. You don't understand. You don't know what he'll do to me. Aleandro stared at her with colder eyes than Grace had ever seen. That is not my problem. You made your choices. You live with them. Grace watched as the guards dragged her sister down the hall, her voice fading into desperate cries that echoed through the mansion like haunting reminders of everything they had survived. When the corridor finally fell silent, Grace sank to her knees, her breath shattering. The pendant lay beside her. Cold. Heavy. Full of a truth she had run from for too long. Aleandro knelt in front of her, lifting her chin gently. It's over. He whispered. It's finally over. Grace shook her head. No. It's not. You could lose everything because of me. You almost died because of me. Your men were hurt. Your house invaded. Your life threatened. Because of me. Aleandro brushed a tear from her cheek. Grace, look at me. She met his eyes. His voice softened in a way she had never heard. I would choose you again. 1,000 times. Even if it meant losing everything. Her breath caught. Aleandro. He rested his forehead against hers. It's not your past that matters now. It's what you are to me. And you are the woman I will protect. Every second. Every moment. Until you believe you deserve to be loved. And until you understand one truth. She whispered. What truth? You didn't ruin my world. You became it. Tears fell down her cheeks as he pulled her into his arms. For the first time since she ran from her old life, Grace didn't feel hunted. She felt safe. Protected. Chosen. And as he lifted her easily and guided her toward his room, she realized something she never believed she would feel. Her past was over. Her fear was done. Her sister's betrayal was finished. The recording no longer controlled her fate. What she had now, what she had finally, was a future. A future where the maid in the red dress was no longer running. She was standing, loved, protected, and for the first time ever, wanted by a man who would burn the world down to keep her safe.